Halloween is my favorite holiday. I like the costumes, the candy, the feeling in the air as summer turns to fall, and I like the movies. Every year, I have an ever-growing list of movies that I watch in October to celebrate Halloween, and on the top of that list is the Evil Dead Trilogy. The Evil Dead Trilogy. I usually watch these movies at the beginning of the month to ease me into the Halloween season because these movies are so good. The original Evil Dead captures everything that's good about this classic era of horror movies. It has that low budget look, and that look is what makes these movies so scary. Movies like the original Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Friday the 13th all have this quality, and I just love it. Evil Dead was made with a budget of about $300,000, which is the same that the original Halloween had. Now at the time, the original Evil Dead wasn't as big of a hit as the original Halloween, but over time, it has garnered a large cult following. Personally, I've always felt that this trilogy has been overlooked. None of them have been big box office successes. The first two movies did make back the money and they were successful, but they were never on the level of like a Halloween or Friday the 13th movie. Now, I'm not going to talk about these movies with major spoilers. I'm just going to talk about elements that I like about them. But I do recommend that if you haven't seen these movies and you really want to, that you should go watch them before you watch this video, because there are probably going to be a few spoilers that slip through. I'm also not going to cover the Evil Dead reboot that came out, and I'm not going to talk about Ash vs. the Evil Dead, mainly because I haven't seen them. And also I want to save the reboot for another time. The premise of this movie is pretty simple. It's just a group of friends that go out to a cabin in the woods to hang out. The cinematography in the first shot is really great. The way it starts off with the moving shot in the woods instantly adds some type of suspense. To get these moving shots, the director of the movie, Sam Raimi, would put the camera on something and then just run through the woods. He did this so he could try to replicate the looks of Steadicam, but for way less money because this movie was dirt cheap. I like how fast this movie gets into the action. It's like the first shot, something starts happening. And then like 8 minutes in, one of the girls gets her hand possessed. The acting in this scene where the girl gets possessed is really great. Actually, just the acting through the entire movie is great. For amateur actors especially, it's like it's all really good. When these characters scream, it's like this blood curdling, like I feel like their life is actually in danger compared to other horror movies where it feels like the actors are just screaming to scream. The actors all play these characters very well. The highlight obviously being Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, who's the main protagonist of all the Evil Dead movies. Bruce Campbell's portrayal of Ash, especially in the later half of the movie, is pretty impressive. Another thing that's impressive in this movie are the visual effects, especially the makeup. I don't know how they did it, but the makeup in this movie is crazy. Throughout the movie, it just keeps getting more and more gruesome, and as it gets more gruesome, it gets more impressive with these effects. Another scene that has impressive effects is the very iconic and very disturbing like tree rape scene. I have no clue how they went through filming this or how they even thought of this, but it's great. It's not great in the sense that it's enjoyable to watch. It's great in the sense that it's actually disturbing. I think if I had to say one thing in this movie that I have an issue with, it's the pacing. Like, this is a very short movie, but by the end of it, it feels like it drags on a little long or it's a little unstructured. But that's like a very, very minor issue when it comes to the main outlook of the movie, because every second of this movie is enjoyable and it is a masterpiece. I was actually curious on what my friends thought about this movie, so I asked one of my friends what he thought of the movie, and this is what he said.
It's really good.
So the movie came out with a $300,000 budget, and then it made $2 million domestically. The movie was a hit, and it caught the attention of Stephen King. Fast forward 5 years, Sam Raimi releases the movie Crimeware, which flopped, so he needed a career saver. So he decided to make Army of Darkness, but sadly, one of the producers asked him to make a movie that was similar to the first one, so Sam decided to save Army of Darkness, and then began work on the Evil Dead 2. So the Evil Dead 2 is basically just a bigger budget version of the first one. The one difference in this movie is that this movie's more of a dark comedy and the first one is more of just a traditional horror movie. I think making this movie a comedy is what gave it more personality, and it's probably the reason why it's considered the best in the trilogy. The movie starts off with a recap of the first movie, but instead of using scenes from that movie, they recast Ash's girlfriend, and then they got rid of the other characters. So the recap just has Ash and his girlfriend. But after the recap, it leads to the end of the last movie, and it continues on with the plot of this movie. The first 45 minutes of this movie is just Ash sitting in the cabin going insane. After this point, the movie introduces the daughter of the owner of the cabin and 3 other characters. They're pretty likable, I think. I think the redneck guy is pretty funny. This movie really just took the first one and went crazier with it. It's got more impressive effects, it's got funnier and crazier moments, and it has a wild ass ending. I know it seems like I'm really underselling this movie, but I'm trying not to say too much about it because it's probably my favorite in the trilogy, and I don't want to spoil any of it.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick.
When looking at the Evil Dead Trilogy, Army of Darkness sticks out like a sore thumb. It's way different from the other movies. For one, it's like a straight up comedy and it doesn't really have a lot of horror in it. It also doesn't take place in the cabin that the other 2 take place in. It actually takes place in medieval times. Also, this movie bombed at the box office. I think this movie was just too weird for Evil Dead fans. But looking back at it now, this movie slaps. Sam Raimi's cartoonish style really shines here. There are a lot of things in this movie that clearly inspired the style of Spider-Man, but this is the movie that really cements Ash Williams as like a pop culture icon. This is the movie where he has the most personality and is the most entertaining. He does a lot of really charming shit in this movie where he says one-liners all the time.
Yo, she bitch.
And he has that scene where he explains where his shotgun's from, and I think it's really funny. For me, the big downside to this movie is just the way it's structured, and I don't think there's enough time for all that's going on. Out of all the movies in the trilogy, this one has the most plot, the most going on, and it's the shortest movie out of all of them. I wish there was more time put into the middle of the movie, which is Ash's adventure, and I wish this movie had more scenes like the mirror thing where there's a bunch of mini-me's around. I must say though, the battle at the end of the movie is very entertaining. Everything in this movie is weird, and it's not weird in the same way that the other 2 are. It's weird in a more comic book type of way. But even with the complaints I have, this movie's still a classic, and you should definitely go watch all of the Evil Dead movies. Come on, it's Halloween. You gotta watch the Evil Dead. If anything, those are the movies you have to watch. The Evil Dead, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are the 3 big ones that I watch every year. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Happy Halloween. If you are trick-or-treating and you need to be safe, go watch my last video. It'll teach you all the tips and tricks to being safe on Halloween. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow me on social media. And make sure you stay tuned for the next video that I release, because it'll be a banger. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Bye.
I told you it's game over. Only like you in your suburb. Had to cut you off, now I don't give a fuck about you.